The 1066 Battle of Fulford, Viking invasion of England. The Battle of Fulford, fought on September 20, 1066, was one of the first critical engagements in the series of conflicts that would culminate in the Norman conquest of England. This battle, often overshadowed by the more famous Battle of Hastings, holds significant importance as it set the stage for the subsequent events that would reshape English history. It was a confrontation between the invading Norwegian forces led by King Harold Hardrada and the local English army commanded by Earl Edwin of Mercia and Earl Morcar of Northumbria. Fulford was part of the broader Viking invasions, which sought to exploit the political instability in England. The background to the battle. In early 1066, the English throne was a coveted prize, following the death of Edward the Confessor. The uncertainty over succession led to multiple claimants vying for control of the kingdom. Harold Godwin's son, crowned as King Harold II, was immediately challenged by two powerful rivals, William, Duke of Normandy, and Harold Hardrada of Norway. Hardrada, a seasoned warrior and one of the last great Viking kings, believed he had a legitimate claim to the English throne based on agreements made by his predecessor. Hardrada's fleet of over 300 ships arrived in northern England, supported by Tostig Godwin's son, the estranged brother of King Harold II. Tostig, eager to reclaim his lost earldom in Northumbria, saw an alliance with Hardrada as an opportunity to weaken his brother's rule. Together, they aimed to overthrow Harold and divide the kingdom. The battle itself. The Battle of Fulford took place near the village of Fulford, just south of York, alongside the Ouse River. Harold Hardrada's forces, numbering between 6,000 and 10,000 men, encountered the northern English army led by Earl Edwin and Earl Morcar, whose combined forces likely ranged from 5,000 to 7,000. Despite their relatively equal numbers, the English were at a disadvantage due to the lack of experienced warriors in their ranks, while Hardrada brought seasoned Vikings, hardened by years of warfare. The English formed a defensive line along the banks of Germany Beck, a tidal stream that offered natural protection. However, Hardrada's army executed a clever tactical maneuver, flanking the English line. The Vikings' superior coordination and fighting skills overwhelmed Edwin and Morcar's forces, breaking their line and causing a retreat. Many English soldiers were cut down as they fled, with a significant portion of the northern army either killed or captured. The aftermath. The defeat at Fulford left northern England exposed to further Viking attacks. York surrendered shortly after, and the region fell under Viking control. King Harold II, who had been preparing for an invasion by William of Normandy in the south, was forced to march his army northwards at breakneck speed to confront Hardrada. This led to the Battle of Stamford Bridge just 5 days later, where Harold II achieved a decisive victory, killing both Harold Hardrada and Tostig. However, the exertion of this northern campaign depleted Harold's forces, weakening his ability to fend off the looming Norman invasion. The Battle of Fulford was a key event in 1066, marking the beginning of a tumultuous period in English history. While it resulted in a victory for the Vikings, it ultimately hastened their downfall at Stamford Bridge. Nevertheless, Fulford weakened the English defense, contributing indirectly to Harold Godwinson's defeat at the Battle of Hastings. Thus, Fulford can be seen as an integral part of the wider power struggle that shaped the future of England. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. And please subscribe, as that will help us get more videos out to those interested in the Middle Ages. See you next time on Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious.
Did you know that the wars between the Irish and the Vikings were not only epic, but also shaped the history of both regions in unforeseen ways? Welcome to Medieval Chronicles 1066. In this video, we will delve into the fascinating conflicts between the Irish and the Vikings, exploring the intense battles and complex relationships that define this era. From the initial Viking raids to the climactic Battle of Clontarf, these wars left an indelible mark on history. The clash between the Irish and the Vikings presented a unique challenge of cultures, strategies, and ambitions. The Vikings, hailing from Scandinavia, were known for their fierce raids and unparalleled seafaring skills. Beginning in the late 8th century, Viking longships appeared off the coast of Ireland, bringing with them warriors seeking wealth and new lands. The initial Viking raids were brutal and swift. They targeted monasteries, which were not only centers of religious life, but also repositories of wealth. For instance, the raid on the monastery of Lindisfarne in 793 AD is often cited as the beginning of the Viking Age, but it was soon followed by similar attacks on Irish monasteries such as Bangor and Clonmacnoise. The Irish, with their intricate clan system and deep knowledge of the terrain, found themselves at odds with these relentless invaders. The early Irish response was largely defensive, but over time, they adapted to the new threat. The Irish clans, each ruled by their own chieftains, had to overcome internal rivalries to present a united front against the Vikings. This was no small feat, as Ireland was not a unified kingdom but a patchwork of territories, each with its own leaders and interests. The challenge was not just about land. It was about power, resources, and survival. The Irish had to defend their way of life against a highly organized and often ruthless enemy. Viking raids disrupted the socio-political order in Ireland, compelling local rulers to devise new strategies for defense and retaliation. One of the key events in these conflicts was the Battle of Clontarf in 1014. But to understand Clontarf, we need to look at the years of Viking settlement and integration that preceded it. By the 9th century, the Vikings had established several significant settlements in Ireland, including Dublin, Waterford, and Limerick. These settlements were more than just military outposts. They became bustling centers of trade and cultural exchange. The Vikings introduced new technologies, such as shipbuilding techniques, and established trade routes that connected Ireland to a broader network spanning Europe and beyond. Dublin, founded in 841 AD, became one of the most important Viking towns, serving as a hub for trade and administration. Archaeological findings, such as those from the Wood Quay excavations, reveal a well-planned settlement with sophisticated craftsmanship and trade connections reaching as far as Byzantium and the Islamic world. The Vikings' influence on Irish society was profound. They brought with them new goods, crafts, and cultural practices. Irish society began to incorporate Viking elements, leading to a fusion of traditions. However, these settlements also became flashpoints for conflict as Irish kings sought to reclaim their territories from Viking control. The Vikings did not just settle and trade. They also played a role in Irish politics. Alliances were forged and broken as Irish kings and Viking leaders navigated the complex landscape of power. Some Irish rulers, like the legendary Brian Boru, sought to unite Ireland under their leadership and expel the Vikings. Brian Boru's rise to power was a significant turning point. As King of Munster, he expanded his influence and aimed to become the High King of Ireland. His military campaigns against both rival Irish kings and Viking lords were instrumental in consolidating his power. His ambition culminated in the Battle of Clontarf, a decisive confrontation that would determine the future of Viking presence in Ireland. The Battle of Clontarf was one of the most significant and bloody battles in Irish history. On Good Friday, April 23, 1014, Brian Boru's forces clashed with the Viking coalition near Dublin. The battle raged for hours, with fierce fighting on both sides. Brian Boru's strategy was to break the Viking ranks and exploit their weaknesses. Despite being an elderly man, Brian's leadership and tactical acumen were crucial. His forces managed to push the Viking coalition back, but the cost was high. Brian himself was killed, along with many of his allies and enemies. Contemporary accounts, such as the Annals of Ulster and the Cogad Gadal Rí Gálib, provide vivid descriptions of the battle. These sources highlight the heroism and brutality on both sides. The Annals describe how the Irish forces, bolstered by allies from various regions, fought valiantly to repel the Viking invaders and their Irish allies, such as Mael Morda of Leinster. The aftermath of Clontarf was a turning point. Although Brian Bora was dead, his forces had effectively ended the Viking threat to Irish sovereignty. The battle marked the decline of Viking power in Ireland and the beginning of a new era for the Irish kingdoms. The legacy of Clontarf and the Viking Wars is seen in the transformation of Irish society. The integration of Viking trade networks into Irish life led to economic growth and cultural exchange. Viking art, craftsmanship, and administrative practices influenced Irish culture, resulting in a unique blend of styles and traditions. The political landscape also changed, as Irish leaders adopted some Viking methods to better manage their territories. In the years following Clontarf, Irish kings continued to vie for dominance, but the nature of their conflicts changed. The threat of Viking incursions diminished, allowing for a focus on internal consolidation and expansion. Viking settlers who remained in Ireland gradually assimilated into Irish society, contributing to the rich cultural tapestry of the island. To sum up, the Irish versus Viking Wars were not only epic in scale but also pivotal in shaping the history of both regions. These conflicts were marked by fierce battles, strategic alliances, and profound cultural exchanges. The impact of these wars can still be seen today in the rich tapestry of Irish history and culture. The Irish and Viking Wars highlight the dynamic interplay between invasion and adaptation, showing how conflict can lead to both destruction and cultural enrichment. The legacy of these wars is a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of the people involved, leaving a lasting influence on the historical trajectory of Ireland. If you found this exploration of the Irish versus Viking Wars intriguing, be sure to check out our other videos on historical conflicts and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more fascinating history documentaries.
The 1011 Viking capture of Canterbury and the imprisonment of Archbishop Aelfhe. In the early 11th century, England was a land frequently ravaged by Viking incursions. These raids, characterized by their ferocity and ruthless efficiency, targeted both the wealth and the spiritual heart of the Anglo-Saxon realm. One of the most significant of these attacks occurred in 1011, when a force of Viking invaders laid siege to Canterbury, captured the city, and took the Archbishop of Canterbury, Aelfhe, as their prisoner. This event not only highlighted the vulnerability of England's defences but also marked a turning point in the relationship between the Anglo-Saxons and the Danes, contributing to the eventual rise of Danish rule over England. Background: a time of turmoil. By the early 11th century, England was no stranger to Viking raids. Beginning with the infamous attack on Lindisfarne in 793, waves of Scandinavian warriors had launched assaults on English shores for over 2 centuries. Under the reign of King Ethelred II, known as Ethelred the Unready, the kingdom was in a particularly precarious position. Ethelred's reign was marked by internal political strife, disorganization, and a series of costly Danegeld payments to appease the Viking raiders. Despite these payments, the Vikings continued to launch devastating attacks, leading to a period of prolonged instability and suffering for the English people. In 1009, the situation worsened when a massive Viking fleet, led by the warlord Thorkel the Tall, landed in England. Thorkel's forces ravaged the English countryside, moving from region to region, plundering towns and monasteries. In 1011, they set their sights on Canterbury, one of the most important cities in the Anglo-Saxon realm. The siege and capture of Canterbury. The siege of Canterbury in 1011 was a well-coordinated assault. The Viking forces, likely numbering in the thousands, surrounded the city and cut off any potential reinforcements. According to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, Canterbury held out for approximately 20 days before treachery from within the city walls led to its downfall. A man named Elfmere, who may have been an Anglo-Saxon noble or even a cleric, is said to have betrayed the city, opening the gates to the Viking horde. Once inside, the Vikings unleashed a torrent of destruction, slaughtering many of the city's inhabitants and burning much of Canterbury to the ground. The Vikings were not only interested in plunder and devastation, they also sought valuable hostages to hold for ransom. Among those captured was Archbishop Ealhfrith, one of the highest-ranking ecclesiastical figures in England. Ealhfrith's capture was a devastating blow to the English Church and the Anglo-Saxon leadership, as he was not only a spiritual leader but also a symbol of English resistance against the Viking invaders. Archbishop Ealhfrith, a martyr for the English Church. Archbishop Ealhfrith, also known as Saint Alphege, was a respected figure in Anglo-Saxon England. He had served as Bishop of Winchester before becoming Archbishop of Canterbury in 1006. Ealhfrith was known for his piety, his commitment to the poor, and his resistance to the Viking incursions. When Canterbury fell, the Vikings saw Ealhfrith as a highly valuable hostage, expecting a large ransom from King Ethelred or the English Church. However, Ealhfrith refused to allow his people to pay the exorbitant ransom demanded by the Vikings, which was set at £3,000 of silver. He argued that such a payment would further impoverish an already suffering population. His steadfastness and refusal to be ransomed angered the Viking leaders, who saw his resistance as an affront to their power and authority. According to accounts from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the writings of later chroniclers, Ealhfrith was held captive for 7 months, enduring harsh conditions and maltreatment at the hands of his captors. During his captivity, Ealhfrith continued to minister to his fellow captives, offering comfort and spiritual guidance. His strength of character and refusal to capitulate made him a revered figure among the English people. In April 1012, the situation reached a boiling point. The Vikings, frustrated by the lack of payment and driven by a combination of anger and drunken revelry, dragged Ealhfrith before their assembly at Greenwich. There, they subjected him to a brutal execution. According to the sources, Ealhfrith was pelted with ox bones, stones, and other missiles before being struck on the head with the butt of an axe by a Viking named Thrum. He died almost instantly, becoming one of the earliest martyrs of the English Church. Aftermath and impact. The death of Archbishop Ealhfrith shocked both the English and the Viking communities. Even Thorkel the Tall, the Viking leader, is said to have been appalled by the manner of Ealhfrith's death. Thorkel, who may have admired Ealhfrith's courage and integrity, reportedly switched allegiances after the archbishop's death, entering the service of King Ethelred and later becoming one of the most influential figures in the English court. Ealhfrith's martyrdom became a rallying point for the English Church and a symbol of resistance against the Vikings. In 1078, Ealhfrith was canonized as a saint, and his relics were later moved to Canterbury Cathedral, where he was honored as a patron of the city. The events of 1011 to 1012 also had broader implications for England's political landscape. The ongoing Viking incursions, coupled with the perceived weakness of Ethelred's rule, eventually led to the conquest of England by King Sweyn Forkbeard in 1013. Though Sweyn's reign was short-lived, it paved the way for his son, Canute the Great, to establish a lasting Danish dynasty over England from 1016 to 1035. The Viking capture of Canterbury and the imprisonment and execution of Archbishop Ealhfrith in 1011 were pivotal moments in the history of Anglo-Saxon England. They underscored the vulnerability of England's defences, the ruthless nature of the Viking invaders, and the deepening crisis of leadership under King Ethelred's reign. Ealhfrith's martyrdom, however, left a lasting legacy of courage and faith, becoming a beacon of hope for the English people during one of the darkest periods of their history. His sacrifice highlighted the resilience of the English Church and helped to shape the narrative of resistance against foreign domination, ultimately contributing to the complex relationship between the Anglo-Saxons and the Danes in the years to come. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. Don't forget to check out our next video. There's so much more to uncover about the Middle Ages. And make sure that you subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious.
In principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Alleluia.
The 871 Battle of Reading, a critical nexus in the Viking confrontation with Anglo-Saxon England. The Viking incursions of the late 9th century represent a watershed in the historiography of the British Isles as they catalyzed profound political, cultural, and military transformations. Central to this era of upheaval is the Battle of Reading, 871, a significant conflict that pitted the West Saxons, under the joint leadership of King Ethelred and Alfred, later known as Alfred the Great, against the Viking Great Heathen Army. Let us examine the broader context of the Viking expansion, the tactical and strategic dynamics of the engagement at Reading, and evaluate its reverberations on the trajectory of Anglo-Saxon resilience and eventual consolidation. The Viking invasions, the contextual framework. The Viking Age, commencing in the late 8th century, marked a period of Scandinavian maritime expansion characterized initially by episodic raids and later by sustained campaigns of conquest and colonization. The Great Heathen Army, a confederation of Norse warriors, landed in East Anglia in 865 with the explicit aim of dismantling the fragmented polities of Anglo-Saxon England. By the end of 870, the Vikings had secured substantial territorial gains, including Mercia, and turned their focus on Wessex, the last redoubt of organized resistance. The West Saxons, led by Ethelred and his younger sibling Alfred, faced a uniquely sophisticated adversary. The Viking forces combined tactical adaptability with strategic depth, leveraging their mobility and expertise in siegecraft. Against this backdrop, the Battle of Reading emerged as a critical engagement, reflecting both the immediacy of the Viking threat and the resolve of Wessex to preserve its sovereignty. Strategic preliminaries and the capture of Reading. The Vikings' occupation of Reading in late 870 underscored their strategic acumen. Situated at the confluence of the rivers Thames and Kennet, Reading afforded the invaders a defensible stronghold and a logistical hub for further incursions into Wessex. The site's dual advantage of natural defensibility and access to waterways enhanced the Vikings' operational flexibility, enabling them to consolidate their territorial gains and launch subsequent campaigns with impunity. Recognizing the existential implications of Viking entrenchment, Ethelred and Alfred mobilized their forces to mount an offensive aimed at dislodging the enemy and reclaiming the town. Anatomy of the Battle of Reading. The confrontation at Reading on January 4, 871, was marked by a complex interplay of tactical maneuvers and operational contingencies. The West Saxon forces, despite their numerical strength, faced formidable Viking fortifications. Their initial assault, characterized by direct frontal engagements, was thwarted by the Vikings' superior defensive positioning and disciplined counteroffensive led by commanders such as Halfdan Ragnarsson. The terrain around Reading, interspersed with waterways and marshland, further impeded the West Saxon advance, providing the Vikings with natural advantages that compounded their strategic ingenuity. The outcome was a decisive defeat for the West Saxons. Casualty figures were significant, and the morale of the Wessex army suffered a severe blow. The Viking response, combining aggression with calculated exploitation of the battlefield terrain, exemplified their operational sophistication. The loss at Reading forced a retreat, leaving Wessex vulnerable to further incursions. This defeat underscored the necessity of tactical evolution within the West Saxon ranks, highlighting both the limitations of frontal assaults against fortified positions and the imperative for strategic innovation. Consequences and Alfred's leadership evolution. Although the Battle of Reading constituted a tactical debacle for Wessex, its long-term implications were paradoxically constructive. In the immediate aftermath, the kingdom endured a succession of engagements, including the pivotal Battle of Ashdown, where Alfred demonstrated nascent military acumen. These engagements collectively provided a crucible in which Alfred's strategic thinking and leadership were tempered. The cumulative experience of these battles honed Alfred's strategic sensibilities, fostering an emphasis on defensive infrastructure, guerrilla tactics, and naval innovation, hallmarks of his later campaigns. The psychological and strategic lessons derived from Reading also catalyzed broader reforms within Wessex. Recognizing the inadequacies of their current military apparatus, the West Saxons implemented significant restructuring of the militia system and fortified urban centers, burhs. These adaptations not only mitigated the immediate threat but also laid the groundwork for Wessex's ascendancy as a unifying force in England. The integration of burhs into a network defense system, coupled with a focus on rapid mobilization and logistical support, represented a paradigm shift in the kingdom's approach to warfare and governance. Broader implications for Anglo-Saxon England. The Viking onslaught, epitomized by engagements such as Reading, served as a crucible for the transformation of Anglo-Saxon governance and military praxis. The exigencies of defending against a relentless adversary necessitated innovations in administrative centralization, resource mobilization, and collective identity formation. Alfred's leadership during this era epitomized these dynamics, earning him the appellation the Great and establishing Wessex as the nucleus of a unified England. Moreover, the Viking invasions precipitated a recalibration of cultural and political paradigms within Anglo-Saxon society. The relentless incursions underscored the need for cohesive state structures capable of withstanding external pressures, thereby accelerating the transition from fragmented heptarchies to a consolidated monarchy. This period also witnessed an ideological transformation, with the concept of kingship increasingly intertwined with the defense of Christian civilization against pagan adversaries, a narrative that bolstered the legitimacy of Alfred's subsequent reforms and unification efforts. Strategic retrospectives and legacy. In hindsight, the Battle of Reading reveals itself as a microcosm of the larger Viking Anglo-Saxon conflict. While ostensibly a tactical defeat, the engagement highlighted the vulnerabilities and strengths of both sides, offering valuable insights into the dynamics of early medieval warfare. For the Vikings, Reading underscored the efficacy of fortified encampments and the strategic exploitation of terrain. For Wessex, the battle's aftermath served as an impetus for profound military, political, and cultural innovation. Alfred's eventual success in repelling the Vikings and laying the foundation for a unified England can be traced to the lessons of Reading and subsequent engagements. The integration of learned strategies, from fortifications to adaptive military doctrines, exemplified Alfred's capacity for synthesis and foresight. His vision transformed Wessex from a beleaguered kingdom into the linchpin of a nascent English nation-state. The 871 Battle of Reading occupies a pivotal place in the historical continuum of the Viking invasions of England. While a tactical defeat, the engagement illuminated the existential stakes for Wessex and provided critical lessons that informed subsequent strategies of resistance and recovery. The legacy of Reading is inextricably linked to Alfred's evolution as a statesman and military innovator, whose vision ultimately steered Wessex toward unity and resilience. As a microcosm of the larger Viking Anglo-Saxon conflict, Reading exemplifies the complexities of leadership, adaptation, and endurance in the face of systemic upheaval. Its enduring significance lies in its role as both a harbinger of challenges to come and a catalyst for transformative change within Anglo-Saxon England. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious.
Hey there, history buffs, welcome to Medieval Chronicles 1066. Today, we're diving into the intriguing world of Viking shield maidens. But wait, did Viking shield maidens really exist? Let's uncover the truth behind these legendary figures and separate fact from fiction. Viking shield maidens, often depicted as fierce female warriors, played a significant role in Norse society and warfare. These women defied societal norms and stood alongside their male counterparts in battle, showcasing exceptional bravery and skill. However, the historical existence of shield maidens has been a subject of debate and misconception. Many scholars and historians have questioned whether these warrior women were just a myth or a reality. Let's unravel the challenges and myths surrounding the existence of Viking shield maidens. Delving into archaeological findings and historical accounts, evidence supporting the existence of shield maidens emerges. Burial sites containing female skeletons buried with weapons and armor suggest that some women did indeed take up arms and fought alongside men in battles. Moreover, sagas and legends recount the tales of formidable shield maidens like Lagertha, who not only participated in warfare but also held positions of leadership and power. These stories shed light on the significant contributions of women in Viking history. Now, let's uncover the captivating stories of famous shield maidens like Lagertha, whose legacy continues to inspire awe and admiration. These women defied societal norms, challenged gender roles, and left a lasting impact on Viking history. Their courage and strength serve as a testament to the resilience and valor of women in ancient times. In conclusion, Viking shield maidens were not merely a product of myth and legend, but actual historical figures who played a pivotal role in Norse culture. Their presence in battles, leadership positions, and folklore highlights the importance of recognizing women's contributions to history. Shield maidens symbolize the strength, determination, and empowerment of women in the Viking Age. If you found this exploration of Viking shield maidens fascinating, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to our channel for more intriguing insights into the past. Stay tuned for more captivating stories from the annals of history. Thanks for watching Medieval Chronicles 1066.
What do you know about Viking mythology? Who is Odin and what is his legacy? Viking mythology, rich with tales of gods, giants, and epic battles, is a window into the spiritual and cultural life of the Norse people. Among the pantheon of gods in Norse mythology, Odin stands as one of the most complex and revered figures. He is not merely a god of war and death, but also a deity associated with wisdom, poetry, and the esoteric arts. Let's explore the legacy of Odin in Viking mythology, examining his multifaceted roles, his influence on Norse culture, and the enduring impact of his stories on modern interpretations of mythology. Odin, the All-Father, and his many roles. Odin, often referred to as the All-Father, occupies a central place in the Norse pantheon. His name is derived from Old Norse Roin, which is linked to concepts of fury, inspiration, and ecstasy. This etymology reflects the duality of Odin's nature, both a god of war and a seeker of wisdom. His complex character is illustrated through his various roles and attributes. The god of war. Odin is famously known as a god of war. He presides over Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain, where warriors who die in battle are welcome to fight and feast until Ragnarok, the end of the world. The concept of Valhalla underscores the importance of honor and bravery in Viking society, where dying in battle was considered the most glorious end for a warrior. Odin's role as a war god is also symbolized by his two ravens, Hugin and Munin, who fly across the world to bring him information, keeping him informed of all that happens in the realms of gods and men. The seeker of wisdom. Contrasting with his warlike aspects, Odin is also deeply associated with wisdom and knowledge. His relentless pursuit of wisdom is perhaps best illustrated by the myth in which he sacrifices one of his eyes at Mimir's well in exchange for a drink of its waters, which grant immense knowledge. This sacrifice signifies the value Odin places on wisdom, even at great personal cost. Additionally, Odin is known to have hung himself from the world tree, Yggdrasil, for 9 days and nights to gain the knowledge of the runes, the ancient Norse alphabet that was believed to hold magical properties. Through these stories, Odin embodies the idea that wisdom often requires sacrifice and that true knowledge is worth any price. The patron of poets. Odin's association with poetry and the spoken word further enriches his legacy. He is credited with the creation of the poetic mead, a magical drink that grants the gift of poetry and eloquence. According to the myth, Odin tricked the giant Suttungr to obtain the mead, which he then shared with gods and a select few humans. This myth highlights the Norse belief in the power of words, not just as a means of communication, but as a tool of influence, creativity, and even magic. For the Vikings, poetry was not merely an art form but a way to capture and convey the divine. The god of the dead. Odin's dominion over the dead is another critical aspect of his legacy. Besides Valhalla, Odin also presides over the less-known realm of the dead called Hel. Unlike the glorious afterlife of Valhalla, Hell is a more subdued place where those who die of sickness or old age reside. This dual role emphasizes the Norse understanding of death as multifaceted, with different fates awaiting souls depending on how they lived and died. Odin's connection to the dead also underscores his role as a psychopomp, a guide of souls, further adding to his image as a god deeply intertwined with the cycle of life and death. Odin's influence on Norse culture. The figure of Odin permeates Norse culture in ways that extend beyond religious worship. His influence is evident in the social structures, values, and artistic expressions of the Viking Age. By examining these areas, we can better understand how Odin's legacy shaped the lives and beliefs of the Norse people. Social structures and leadership. Odin was often invoked by Viking chieftains and kings as a divine model of leadership. His attributes as a wise, cunning, and sometimes ruthless leader were qualities that Viking rulers sought to emulate. The idea of the Odinic leader who could guide his people through wisdom and strength was central to Norse governance. This is reflected in the sagas and historical accounts where kings were often depicted as having a special relationship with Odin, receiving his guidance through dreams or visions. The emphasis on wisdom and strategic thinking, as well as the willingness to make sacrifices for the greater good, were qualities that mirrored Odin's character and were highly valued in Norse society. Warrior ethos and the concept of honor. The warrior ethos that dominated Viking culture was closely tied to Odin's influence. The belief in Valhalla as the ultimate reward for fallen warriors reinforced the idea that dying in battle was the most honorable death one could achieve. This belief system encouraged bravery and a relentless fighting spirit among the Vikings. Odin's own reputation as a warrior god who collected the souls of the bravest fighters served as a powerful incentive for warriors to strive for greatness in battle. The stories of Odin riding into battle on his eight-legged horse, Sleipnir, and leading the Valkyries, who selected the worthy dead, further cemented his role as the ultimate war god. Art, literature, and oral traditions. Odin's legacy is also deeply embedded in Norse art, literature, and oral traditions. The Eddas, a collection of Old Norse poems and stories, are rich with references to Odin and his exploits. These texts, which form the backbone of our understanding of Norse mythology, present Odin as a central figure whose actions and decisions shape the fate of gods and men alike. In Viking art, Odin is often depicted with his distinct attributes, his spear Gungnir, his ravens Hugin and Munin, and his one eye are symbolizing his various powers and domains. These depictions served not only as religious symbols but also as cultural icons that conveyed important values and narratives to the Norse people. Odin's legacy in modern times. The legacy of Odin did not fade with the decline of the Viking Age. Instead, it has endured and evolved, influencing literature, popular culture, and even contemporary religious movements. By exploring these modern interpretations, we can see how Odin's mythology continues to resonate in the modern world. Literature and popular culture. Odin's influence is evident in various works of literature and popular culture, particularly in the fantasy genre. Writers like J.R.R. Tolkien and Neil Gaiman have drawn heavily from Norse mythology, with Odin-like figures appearing in their stories. For instance, Tolkien's Gandalf bears many similarities to Odin, from his wisdom and knowledge of ancient lore to his role as a guide and protector. Similarly, Gaiman's American Gods features Mr. Wednesday, a direct representation of Odin in the modern world, navigating a landscape where old gods struggle for relevance against new ones. These adaptations have introduced Odin to new audiences, ensuring that his myths continue to inspire and entertain. Neo-paganism and modern worship. In recent decades, there has been a resurgence of interest in Norse mythology within neo-pagan movements, particularly among those who practice Asatru, a modern revival of ancient Norse religion. Odin is often venerated as a central deity in this movement, with rituals and practices aimed at connecting with his wisdom, strength, and guidance. This modern worship reflects a desire to reconnect with ancient traditions and to find meaning in the stories and values of the past. For many, Odin represents a source of personal empowerment and a connection to a larger, more profound spiritual heritage. The symbolism of Odin in contemporary society. Beyond religious contexts, Odin has also become a symbol of various cultural and philosophical ideas. His relentless pursuit of knowledge and willingness to sacrifice for wisdom resonates with those who value intellectual curiosity and lifelong learning. In some circles, Odin is seen as a symbol of resistance against modernity, embodying a return to older, more primal values in a rapidly changing world. His image as a complex, multifaceted deity allows him to be interpreted in various ways, making him relevant to diverse groups and individuals. Conclusion: Odin's legacy in Viking mythology is vast and multifaceted, reflecting the complexity of his character and the richness of the culture that worshipped him. As a god of war, wisdom, poetry, and the dead, Odin's influence permeated all aspects of Norse life, from social structures and warrior ethos to art and literature. His stories, preserved through centuries of oral tradition and later written down in the Eddas, continue to inspire and captivate audiences today. In modern times, Odin's legacy has found new life in literature, popular culture, and contemporary religious movements. His myths offer timeless lessons about sacrifice, knowledge, and the human condition, ensuring that Odin remains a powerful and enduring figure in the collective imagination. Whether as a symbol of leadership, a patron of poets, or a seeker of wisdom, Odin's legacy continues to resonate, proving that the stories of the Viking gods are far from forgotten. They are as alive and vibrant today as they were 1,000 years ago. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. And please subscribe, as that will help us get more videos out to those interested in the Middle Ages. See you next time on Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious. Do you know anything about the brutal reality of Viking berserkers? Were these warrior rituals? The Viking Age, from the late 8th to the mid-11th century, is often imagined with images of fearless warriors and brutal raids. Among these figures, berserkers stand out as the most fearsome, wild, uncontrollable warriors who seemed invincible in battle. However, beneath the myth lies a complex reality intertwined with ritual, spirituality, and social dynamics. This essay delves into the brutal reality of Viking berserkers, exploring the rituals that transformed ordinary men into these legendary warriors. Origins of the berserker myth. The term berserker is thought to derive from the Old Norse words ber, bear, and serker, shirt, suggesting that these warriors either wore bear skins or embodied the ferocity of bears in battle. Alternatively, berserk might mean bare-shirted, indicating that these warriors fought without armor, which would have been seen as incredibly reckless. Medieval sources describe berserkers as entering a trance-like state, immune to pain and capable of superhuman feats of strength and violence. These descriptions reflect the intense and brutal nature of Viking warfare, where psychological intimidation was as important as physical prowess. The Berserkers, with their wild appearance and seeming invulnerability, were both terrifying to their enemies and inspiring to their allies. To understand the reality behind these legends, we must examine the rituals that transformed men into Berserkers. Rituals of transformation. The core of Berserker identity lay in the concept of transformation, physical, spiritual, and psychological. This transformation was achieved through rituals designed to invoke the power of animal spirits, particularly bears and wolves. Wearing animal skins, such as bear or wolf pelts, was believed to imbue the wearer with the animal's strength and ferocity. One key ritual was a hamask, meaning change form. This was not literal shapeshifting, but a symbolic transition from human to beast during battle. Intense rituals involving drumming, chanting, and dancing were used to induce a frenzied state of mind. The consumption of mind-altering substances, like alcohol or hallucinogenic mushrooms, likely played a role in facilitating this altered state of consciousness. These rituals suggest that Berserkers were not simply acting out of uncontrolled rage, but were following prescribed practices aimed at achieving a specific psychological and spiritual state. This state was characterized by a loss of self-awareness and suppression of fear and pain, allowing the Berserker to fight with singular focus. Psychological and physiological factors. The Berserker's ferocity can also be understood through psychology and physiology. The intense rituals likely induced an altered state of consciousness, where the warrior's sense of self and distinction between friend and foe blurred. This state, known as Berserkergang, was marked by an overwhelming sense of invulnerability and disregard for personal safety. Modern interpretations suggest that the Berserker's behavior may have been influenced by psychological factors like extreme stress or trauma, common in a society where violence was a way of life. Mind-altering substances could have exacerbated these effects, leading to a dissociative state where the warrior felt detached from reality. The physical exertion involved in the rituals, combined with the harsh conditions of Viking life, likely led to the release of endorphins and adrenaline. This physiological response, coupled with the psychological conditioning of the rituals, created a warrior capable of extraordinary feats of strength and violence, seemingly immune to normal human limitations. Social and cultural context. The existence of Berserkers is best understood within the social and cultural context of Viking society. The Vikings lived in a world where warfare was both a means of survival and a path to honor and glory. The concept of drengskappa, or warrior honor, was central to their identity, and Berserkers displayed this ideal with their fearlessness and willingness to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Berserkers often served as personal bodyguards, known as herdmen, to kings and chieftains. Their role was not just to protect their leader, but also to serve as symbols of power and intimidation. The presence of Berserkers in a warband would have been a powerful psychological weapon, demoralizing enemies before the battle began. However, the status of Berserkers was enigmatic. While celebrated for their martial prowess, they were also viewed with suspicion and fear due to their association with animalistic behavior and uncontrolled violence. This ambivalence reflects the tension between admiration for their skills and fear of their unpredictability. Literary depictions and historical accounts. The most vivid depictions of Berserkers come from the sagas, particularly the sagas of the Icelanders and King's sagas. These medieval Icelandic texts, written in the 13th century but based on earlier oral traditions, provide detailed accounts of Berserkers in both historical and legendary contexts. One famous Berserker is Egil Skallagrimsson, a Viking poet and warrior known for his uncontrollable rage and violent outbursts. In Egil's saga, Egil enters a berserk state, becoming invincible in battle but losing control of his actions, sometimes attacking friends and foes alike. This duality, strength combined with unpredictability, captures the essence of the Berserker myth. Another account is found in the Ynglinga saga, part of the Heimskringla, a collection of sagas about the kings of Norway written by Snorri Sturluson in the 13th century. The saga describes Berserkers as Odin's special warriors, immune to fire and iron, reinforcing the idea of Berserkers as sacred warriors chosen by the gods. These literary depictions, while embellished with mythical elements, reflect the historical reality of Berserkers as a distinct warrior class in Viking society. However, they also highlight the tension between admiration and fear surrounding these warriors, whose behavior often bordered on the supernatural. Archaeological evidence. Archaeological evidence provides further insight into the reality of Viking berserkers and the rituals that defined them. While direct evidence of berserkers is scarce, certain findings suggest the existence of warrior cults and rituals associated with animal transformation. One such piece of evidence is the Torslanda plates, a set of bronze dies from 6th century Sweden. These plates depict warriors wearing animal masks, possibly representing the ritualistic transformation of men into beasts. This imagery suggests that the concept of animalistic warriors existed in pre-Viking societies and may have influenced the development of berserker rituals. Another significant find is the Sutton Hoo burial site in England, dating to the early 7th century. Among the grave goods is a helmet adorned with boar imagery, a symbol of protection and ferocity in battle. This suggests a belief in the power of animal spirits and their role in warfare, a belief that likely carried over into the Viking Age. The decline of the Berserkers. The decline of the Berserkers is closely tied to the Christianization of Scandinavia. As Christianity spread during the 10th and 11th centuries, the pagan rituals and beliefs that shaped the Berserkers were increasingly viewed with suspicion. Christianity introduced new moral codes that clashed with the wild, uncontrollable nature of the Berserkers. The Christian warrior was expected to embody controlled strength, humility, and devotion to God, contrasting sharply with the pagan ideals of unrestrained ferocity. As Christian influence grew, berserkers were no longer revered but seen as dangerous outcasts. Legal codes, such as the Gulathing and Frostathing laws in Norway, outlawed berserkergang and imposed penalties on those who practiced it. The berserkers' role as symbols of fear and power became a liability, leading to their gradual disappearance from the social and military landscape. The transition from paganism to Christianity also led to a reinterpretation of berserkers in literature and folklore. They were no longer seen as sacred warriors but as figures of madness and demonic possession. In Christian accounts, berserkers were often portrayed as possessed by evil spirits or cursed by God for adhering to pagan rituals. This demonization reflects the broader cultural shift from a violent, chaotic pagan society to a more orderly Christian one. Legacy of the Berserkers. Despite their decline, the legacy of the Berserkers endures in both historical memory and popular culture. The image of the Berserker as a frenzied, unstoppable warrior has been romanticized, often detached from the brutal realities of Viking warfare and the complex rituals that shaped them. In modern times, the term berserk is commonly used to describe someone acting in an uncontrolled and aggressive manner, reflecting the enduring fascination with the idea of the berserker. Berserkers have also inspired characters in literature, film, and video games, where they are depicted as archetypal barbarian warriors with extraordinary combat abilities. The berserkers continue to be the subject of scholarly research, with historians, archaeologists, and psychologists seeking to understand the true nature of these warriors. This interdisciplinary study sheds light on how ritual, culture, and psychology intersected in the Viking Age, offering insights into how extreme behaviors are shaped by social and religious contexts. Conclusion. The brutal reality of Viking berserkers is a complex and multifaceted topic that extends beyond the simple image of wild, uncontrollable warriors. These men were products of a specific cultural and historical context, shaped by rituals that sought to transform them into something more than human. Berserkers were not just madmen driven by rage, they were highly trained and conditioned warriors whose fearsome reputation resulted from deliberate practices aimed at invoking the power of animal spirits and entering an altered state of consciousness. As the Viking world gave way to Christianization, the role of berserkers changed, and they became symbols of the very chaos and savagery that the new religion sought to suppress. The decline of berserkers reflects the broader cultural shift from a pagan to a Christian society. Today, berserkers remain powerful symbols of the extremes of human behavior, representing both unparalleled strength and the dangers of uncontrolled aggression. By uncovering the rituals that shaped these warriors, we gain a deeper understanding of the Viking Age and the complex interplay between ritual, culture, and violence in shaping human history. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. And please subscribe, as that will help us get more videos out to those interested in the Middle Ages. See you next time on Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious.
Welcome to Medieval Chronicles 1066 and our deep dive into history. Today, we embark on an epic journey to explore the life and legacy of one of the most legendary Viking warriors of all time, Bjorn Ironside. Known for his unparalleled bravery and unyielding spirit, Bjorn's name has echoed through the ages as a symbol of Viking valor and conquest. Born in the 9th century, Bjorn Ironside was a son of the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok, a name synonymous with Viking heroism. According to the sagas, Bjorn was one of Ragnar's many sons, and his mother was a Slog, a formidable figure in her own right. From an early age, Bjorn was immersed in the Viking way of life, learning the skills of a warrior and the tactics of a seafarer. Bjorn's most notable achievements came from his daring raids across Europe. In the mid-9th century, Bjorn, alongside his brothers and other Viking leaders, launched a series of devastating raids on the Frankish Empire. One of the most famous was the Siege of Paris in 845 AD, where Bjorn and his warriors sailed up the Seine River, striking fear into the hearts of the Parisians and extracting a hefty ransom from King Charles the Bald. But Bjorn's ambitions didn't stop at the Frankish territories. He is also believed to have led expeditions to the Mediterranean, venturing as far as Italy and possibly even North Africa. These journeys showcased the Vikings' extraordinary seafaring skills and their relentless pursuit of wealth and glory. Bjorn earned the epithet Ironside due to his reputed invincibility in battle. The sagas recount how he emerged unscathed from countless skirmishes, leading many to believe he was blessed by the gods. This legendary status not only solidified his place in Viking lore, but also inspired generations of warriors to come. Bjorn Ironside's legacy extends far beyond his lifetime. His adventures and exploits were immortalized in the Icelandic sagas, influencing not only historical accounts but also popular culture. Today, his story is celebrated in TV shows like Vikings, which has brought his legend to a global audience. Museums across Scandinavia and Europe preserve artifacts from the Viking Age, offering a glimpse into the world Bjorn once dominated. Bjorn Ironside is a fascinating figure because he embodies the quintessential Viking spirit: fearless, ambitious, and relentless. His life story, though shrouded in myth, continues to captivate and inspire us today. Bjorn Ironside's tale is a testament to the enduring allure of the Viking Age. His name, carved into the annals of history, reminds us of a time when warriors roamed the seas and legends were born. Thank you for joining us on this historical journey. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bjorn Ironside's life, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more captivating stories from the past.
The Viking economy was multifaceted, with a strong emphasis on both raiding and trading. While raiding was often the initial contact with new territories, the establishment of trade networks followed. The Vikings engaged in the trade of furs, timber, amber, and slaves, with their networks extending as far as the Byzantine Empire and the Abbasid Caliphate. This trade was not only a source of wealth, but also facilitated cultural exchanges that brought new technologies, ideas, and goods to Scandinavia. Viking expansion across Europe. Viking expansion varied significantly depending on the regions they encountered, resulting in a complex web of interactions across Europe. In the British Isles, Vikings established significant settlements and political entities, such as the Danelaw, a region of Viking-controlled territories in England. The founding of cities like Dublin and York by the Vikings turned these places into vibrant centers of trade and culture. In these settlements, Norse and local cultures intermingled, leading to a unique cultural synthesis that influenced language, art, and governance. The Vikings were not solely raiders, but also skilled traders and merchants. They established extensive trade routes that connected the North Atlantic with the Mediterranean and even reached the Middle East. These routes facilitated the exchange of goods such as furs, timber, slaves, and luxury items like silk and spices. The Viking trading network was vast, extending from the Byzantine Empire to the Islamic caliphates, and played a crucial role in the economic dynamism of the Viking Age. In Eastern Europe, the Vikings, known as the Varangians, navigated the river systems of the Dnieper and Volga, establishing trade routes that connected them with the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world. These routes were pivotal in the formation of the early Russian state, particularly through the establishment of Kievan Rus, a federation of Slavic tribes under the influence of Varangian leaders. The cultural exchanges between the Norse and Slavic peoples were profound, leading to the blending of traditions and the spread of Christianity in the region. The Vikings' role in the Mediterranean was also significant, as they established trade links with the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic caliphates. This interaction brought them into contact with a wide array of cultures and technologies, influencing their own material culture. The Vikings' engagement in trade extended to the slave trade, which was a significant aspect of their economy. They captured and sold slaves from various regions, including the British Isles and Eastern Europe, transporting them to markets as far afield as the Islamic world. The Vikings' expeditions were not merely acts of conquest and trade. They also involved significant cultural exchanges. The Norsemen adopted various elements from the cultures they encountered, including technological innovations, artistic styles, and religious beliefs. This cultural assimilation was facilitated by intermarriage, which helped blend Norse and local traditions, creating a unique cultural milieu in regions such as the British Isles and the Frankish territories. The Viking Age and the foundation of Normandy. Introduction. The Viking Age, spanning from the late 8th to the early 11th century, represents a transformative era in European history, marked by the exploration and expansion of Scandinavian seafarers known as Vikings. This period is often characterized by the fierce raids and conquests of the Norsemen, yet their influence extended far beyond mere plundering. Vikings established extensive trade networks, settlements, and facilitated cultural exchanges across Europe and beyond. One of the most significant outcomes of this era was the foundation of Normandy in modern-day France. This region, established by the Viking leader Rollo, became a pivotal area in medieval European history, influencing not only the immediate region but also the broader European political and cultural landscape. The transformation from marauding Vikings to established rulers in Normandy is a compelling narrative of cultural assimilation, political adaptation, and the creation of a new socio-political entity that left a lasting legacy in European history. The Viking Age. Background and context. The Viking Age's roots can be traced back to the social, economic, and environmental conditions prevalent in Scandinavian societies during the late 8th century. The Norse people inhabited a rugged landscape with limited arable land, prompting a reliance on the sea for resources and trade. This maritime orientation facilitated a unique culture of seafaring and exploration. The Vikings' advanced shipbuilding techniques, particularly the development of the longship, were crucial in enabling their far-reaching expeditions. Longships were fast, versatile, and capable of navigating both open seas and shallow rivers, allowing Vikings to reach distant lands and establish trade networks. Several factors motivated the Vikings' expansion. The quest for wealth and resources was a primary driver, as Scandinavian economies were relatively poor in natural resources. Raids on wealthy monasteries and towns in Europe provided valuable plunder, including silver, gold, and other goods. Additionally, overpopulation and political instability in Scandinavia may have pushed some to seek new lands for settlement. Viking expeditions were often led by chieftains seeking wealth and status, further fueled by a culture that celebrated martial prowess and adventurous exploration. Scandinavian society was organized around a hierarchical structure that included a king or chieftain at the top, followed by a class of free farmers, warriors, and a lower class of thralls or slaves. This structure played a crucial role in Viking expeditions, as leaders sought to expand their wealth and power by acquiring new lands and resources. The concept of landnam, or land-taking, was central to Viking expansion, as it allowed successful leaders to redistribute land to their followers, ensuring loyalty and strengthening their power base. The Vikings in Francia. The incursions of the Vikings into Francia marked a significant phase in their expansion. The political landscape of Francia, dominated by the Carolingian Empire, was particularly vulnerable following the death of Charlemagne in 814. The empire, once a cohesive entity under Charlemagne's rule, began to fragment as his grandsons divided the territory among themselves according to the Treaty of Verdun in 843. This fragmentation weakened central authority, making the region susceptible to external threats, including Viking raids. Viking raids in Francia targeted wealthy monasteries, trading towns, and major cities. The monasteries were particularly attractive targets due to their wealth and relative lack of defenses. The Vikings' ability to conduct large-scale military operations was exemplified by the Siege of Paris in 885 to 886, where a substantial Viking force, led by leaders such as Siegfried and Rollo, laid siege to the city. Despite failing to capture Paris, the siege exposed the vulnerabilities of the Frankish defenses and underscored the need for a more coordinated response to the Viking threat. The impact of these raids was profound. They not only disrupted trade and agriculture, but also had significant cultural and psychological effects. The destruction of monasteries, which were centers of learning and culture, was a severe blow to the intellectual life of the region. Moreover, the Viking threat exacerbated the political fragmentation of the Carolingian Empire, as local rulers sought to fortify their territories and negotiate separate peace agreements with the invaders. In response to the Viking threat, the Carolingian rulers and their successors implemented various strategies, including the construction of fortifications and the payment of tribute, known as Danegeld, to deter further attacks. However, these measures were often insufficient, as the Vikings continued to raid and establish settlements along the Seine and other major rivers. The establishment of permanent Viking settlements in Francia marked a shift from raiding to colonization, as the Norsemen sought to integrate into the local economy and society. The Vikings' activities in Francia also included diplomatic and political maneuvers. They engaged in negotiations with local rulers, sometimes receiving land and titles in exchange for peace or military service. These agreements, known as foedus, allowed the Vikings to establish themselves as legitimate powers within the Frankish territories. The most notable of these agreements was the Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte, which led to the foundation of Normandy. Rollo and the Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte. Rollo, a prominent Viking leader, emerged as a key figure during this period of turmoil. His origins are subject to historical debate, with some sources suggesting Danish origins and others proposing Norwegian roots. Regardless of his exact background, Rollo became a formidable force in the region, leading raids and establishing a base of power along the Seine River. His participation in the Siege of Paris cemented his reputation and marked him as a leader of note among the Viking communities. The Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte, signed in 911, marked a pivotal moment in the relationship between the Vikings and the Frankish crown. Negotiated between Rollo and Charles the Simple, the treaty granted Rollo and his followers a significant portion of land along the lower Seine, including the town of Rouen. In exchange, Rollo pledged allegiance to the Frankish king and agreed to defend the region against further Viking incursions. This agreement effectively established the Duchy of Normandy. The treaty's terms also included Rollo's conversion to Christianity, a condition that he and his warriors accepted. The baptism of Rollo and his men was not merely a symbolic act. It represented a significant shift in their identity and status. By embracing Christianity, Rollo and his followers were integrated into the Frankish political and social framework, transforming from pagan outsiders into legitimate Christian rulers. This conversion also facilitated the assimilation of Norse and Frankish cultures, as the new Norman rulers adopted Frankish customs, language, and governance structures. The establishment of Normandy marked a critical juncture in the history of Viking expansion. Unlike previous Viking incursions, which were primarily characterized by raiding, the foundation of Normandy represented a more permanent and structured settlement. The Normans, as Rollo's followers came to be known, quickly adapted to their new environment, adopting the feudal system that characterized Frankish society. This adaptation included the development of a vassalage system, where the Norman duke granted lands to his followers in exchange for military service and loyalty. Rollo's leadership and the establishment of Normandy also set a precedent for other Viking leaders to seek similar arrangements with local rulers. This practice of securing land and titles in exchange for military service or tribute became a common strategy among Viking leaders, leading to the establishment of other Norse-ruled territories across Europe. The Normans' integration into the Frankish realm marked a significant shift in Viking strategy, from raiding and plundering to governance and state-building. The evolution of Normandy. Under Rollo and his successors, Normandy developed into a prosperous and influential duchy. The Normans quickly adopted the administrative and military practices of the Frankish realm, blending them with their own Norse traditions. This synthesis created a unique Norman culture characterized by a strong emphasis on martial values, feudal loyalty, and Christian piety. One of the most notable aspects of Norman culture was their military prowess, particularly their use of heavy cavalry. The Normans became known for their disciplined and effective use of mounted knights, a practice they would later export to England and beyond. The construction of castles, another hallmark of Norman military strategy, helped to secure their territories and project power. These castles served not only as military strongholds, but also as administrative centers, reflecting the dual nature of Norman rule as both warriors and governors. The Normans were also adept administrators. They established a feudal system that balanced the interests of the local aristocracy with those of the central authority. The Norman dukes exercised significant control over their vassals, fostering a strong sense of loyalty and mutual obligation. This feudal structure allowed the Normans to maintain a stable and cohesive political entity, even as they expanded their influence. The Normans implemented a legal and administrative system that included the use of writs, charters, and records, which facilitated governance and reinforced the authority of the ducal court. Christianity played a crucial role in the Norman assimilation process. The Norman rulers supported the construction of churches and monasteries, endowing them with land and wealth. This patronage helped to legitimize their rule and facilitated the spread of Christianity among their subjects. The monasteries became centers of learning and culture, contributing to the region's intellectual and artistic development. The establishment of ecclesiastical institutions also reinforced the Norman rulers' ties to the broader Christian world, linking them with the papacy and other European powers. The evolution of Normandy was not without challenges. The region faced internal conflicts, such as disputes over succession and vassal loyalty, as well as external threats from neighboring territories and Viking raiders. However, the Normans proved adept at navigating these challenges, using a combination of diplomacy, marriage alliances, and military strength to consolidate their power. The Norman ducal line, beginning with Rollo, established a stable and enduring political entity that became a model for other regions. The Normans' military and administrative innovations were instrumental in their ability to maintain control over their territories. The development of feudalism in Normandy, with its emphasis on vassalage and land tenure, created a stable and hierarchical society. This system allowed the Normans to mobilize resources and manpower effectively, supporting their military campaigns and governance. The construction of castles and fortified towns also played a crucial role in consolidating Norman power, providing defensible centers of administration and control. Normandy's impact on European politics. Normandy's strategic location and military strength made it a key player in the politics of medieval Europe. The Norman dukes often acted independently of the French crown, pursuing their own interests and expanding their territories. One of the most significant events in Norman history was the Norman conquest of England in 1066, led by Duke William the Conqueror, a descendant of Rollo. The conquest established the Normans as a dominant force in both England and Normandy, reshaping the political landscape of Western Europe. The Norman conquest had profound consequences for England. The Normans introduced new forms of governance, land tenure, and military organization that had a lasting impact on English society. The introduction of the feudal system, the construction of castles, and the establishment of a centralized administrative system transformed the political and social structures of England. The Normans also played a crucial role in the cultural and linguistic development of England, with the Norman French language influencing the development of Middle English. Beyond England, the Normans established a significant presence in southern Italy and Sicily, where they founded the Kingdom of Sicily. Their military and administrative expertise, combined with their ability to assimilate local cultures, enabled the Normans to create a multi-ethnic and multi-religious state that became a cultural and intellectual hub in the Mediterranean. The Kingdom of Sicily became a center of cultural exchange, where Byzantine, Islamic, and Latin Christian traditions coexisted and interacted. Norman architecture, characterized by the Romanesque style, left a lasting legacy across Europe. The construction of castles, cathedrals, and monasteries in the Norman style can be seen in various regions, reflecting the Normans' influence on European art and architecture. The Norman style, with its emphasis on monumental and fortified structures, became a defining feature of medieval European architecture. The Normans also played a significant role in the Crusades, participating in various military campaigns in the Holy Land. The Normans' involvement in the Crusades was motivated by a combination of religious zeal, the desire for wealth and land, and the opportunity to gain prestige and honor. The Normans' military prowess and organizational skills made them valuable allies in the crusading efforts, and they established a number of principalities in the Crusader states. The impact of the Normans extended beyond their immediate political and military achievements. They contributed to the development of European feudalism, a system that structured society around relationships derived from the holding of land in exchange for service. The Norman adaptation and refinement of this system influenced governance in both England and their other territories. Moreover, the Normans played a role in the codification of laws and the establishment of judicial systems, which laid the groundwork for the rule of law in their domains. The Normans' influence on European politics was also evident in their diplomatic and marital alliances. The Norman dukes established ties with other European noble families through marriage, creating a network of alliances that extended across the continent. These alliances not only strengthened the Normans' political position, but also facilitated cultural exchanges and the spread of Norman customs and practices. Cultural and architectural legacy of the Normans. The cultural and architectural legacy of the Normans is a testament to their ability to blend diverse influences into a cohesive and enduring cultural identity. The Romanesque architectural style, characterized by thick walls, round arches, and sturdy pillars, became a hallmark of Norman construction. This style was not only practical, providing strong defensive structures, but also conveyed a sense of grandeur and authority. Notable examples of Norman Romanesque architecture include the Durham Cathedral in England and the Abbey of Saint-Étienne in Caen, Normandy. In addition to architecture, the Normans contributed significantly to the arts and literature. They were patrons of illuminated manuscripts, a tradition that flourished in the monastic communities they supported. These manuscripts, often richly decorated with intricate designs and vibrant colors, are valuable historical artifacts that provide insights into the religious and cultural life of the period. The Normans also fostered the development of literature in both Latin and vernacular languages, promoting the works of poets, chroniclers, and scholars. The Norman influence on legal and administrative systems was equally profound. The Normans played a pivotal role in the development of the common law system in England, which has had a lasting impact on legal systems around the world. The Norman emphasis on centralized authority and the rule of law helped lay the foundations for modern governance. Their administrative practices, including the Domesday Book, a comprehensive survey of land and property in England, exemplified their systematic approach to governance. The cultural synthesis that occurred in Norman territories was particularly evident in Sicily, where Norman rulers presided over a diverse population that included Latin Christians, Byzantine Greeks, and Muslims. The Normans adopted and adapted elements from each of these cultures, creating a unique and cosmopolitan society. This cultural fusion was reflected in the art, architecture, and literature of the Kingdom of Sicily, which drew on Byzantine, Islamic, and Western European traditions. The Norman legacy also extended to language and literature. In England, the Normans introduced a considerable amount of French vocabulary, which significantly influenced the development of the English language. This linguistic impact is evident in legal, administrative, and culinary terms, many of which have French origins. The Normans also patronized literary works that celebrated chivalric values and the deeds of knights, contributing to the development of medieval Romance literature. The Normans' contribution to education and scholarship was also notable. They established and supported schools and universities, fostering a culture of learning that attracted scholars from across Europe. The Normans' patronage of the arts and sciences contributed to the intellectual revival of the 12th century, known as the 12th century Renaissance, which saw a flourishing of literature, philosophy, and science. Historiographical perspectives on the Normans. The historiography of Rollo and the early Normans has evolved significantly over time. Early medieval chroniclers often depicted the Vikings as barbaric invaders, emphasizing their destructiveness and the chaos they wrought. However, modern historians have sought to provide a more balanced and nuanced portrayal, recognizing the complexity of the Vikings' interactions with other cultures and their contributions to European history. Key sources for the history of the Normans include Dudo of St. Quintin's Historia Normanorum, which, while valuable, must be read critically due to its biases and the context in which it was written. Dudo's account, commissioned by Richard the Fearless, sought to legitimize the Norman rulers' authority by tracing their lineage back to heroic Viking ancestors. Other important sources include the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and the writings of William of Jumiages, which provide additional perspectives on the Norman presence in England and the broader European context. Recent scholarship has emphasized the Normans' role as cultural intermediaries, highlighting their ability to adapt and integrate different cultural influences. The study of the Normans' activities in the Mediterranean, particularly in Sicily, has revealed the extent of their interactions with Islamic and Byzantine cultures. This research underscores the Normans' role in facilitating cultural exchange and the cross-pollination of ideas, technologies, and artistic styles. The Normans' legacy continues to be a subject of fascination and study. They are often portrayed in popular culture, from historical novels and films to video games, reflecting their enduring appeal. This popular interest, however, sometimes leads to oversimplified or romanticized depictions, which historians strive to correct by providing a more nuanced understanding of the Normans' impact on medieval Europe. Modern historiography has also explored the economic and social dimensions of Norman society. Studies have examined the Normans' role in developing agricultural practices, trade networks, and urbanization in their territories. The Normans' efforts to foster economic growth and stability were integral to their success as rulers and contributed to the prosperity of regions under their control. The historiographical debate continues to evolve as new archaeological discoveries and interdisciplinary approaches shed light on the complexities of Norman society. Recent research has focused on the everyday lives of ordinary people in Norman territories, exploring aspects such as diet, health, and family structures. This scholarship provides a more comprehensive understanding of the Normans' social and cultural impact. Conclusion. The foundation of Normandy by Rollo and his followers marked a turning point in the history of the Viking Age and the Frankish realm. It transformed a group of Norse invaders into a legitimate and powerful force within medieval Europe. The Normans' adoption of Frankish customs, language, and Christianity facilitated their integration into broader European society and enabled them to play a significant role in the political and cultural developments of the time. The legacy of the Viking Age in Europe is complex and multifaceted, with the Normans standing as one of its most enduring symbols. Their influence extended far beyond Normandy, shaping the course of European history through their conquests, governance, and cultural contributions. The story of Rollo and the foundation of Normandy is not only a tale of conquest and settlement, but also a testament to the transformative power of cultural exchange and adaptation. As we continue to explore and reinterpret the history of the Normans, we gain a deeper understanding of the dynamic and interconnected world of medieval Europe. The Normans' ability to integrate diverse cultural influences, their military prowess, and their administrative skills made them one of the most influential groups in medieval Europe. The Normans not only reshaped the regions they conquered, but also left a lasting impact on the broader European cultural and political landscape. Their legacy can be seen in the architecture, legal systems, and cultural practices that continue to influence modern society. The study of the Normans and their history provides valuable insights into the processes of cultural exchange, migration, and state formation. The Norman story is a reminder of the ways in which diverse cultures can interact, influence each other, and create new and dynamic societies. The Normans' ability to adapt to changing circumstances and to integrate new cultural influences is a testament to the resilience and creativity of human societies. In conclusion, the history of the Normans is a rich and complex narrative that offers valuable lessons for understanding the past and the present. The Normans' legacy is a testament to the enduring power of cultural exchange and the ways in which diverse societies can come together to create new and vibrant cultures. As we continue to study and learn from the history of the Normans, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the rich tapestry of human history and the ways in which diverse cultures have shaped our world. Thus, our detailed exploration of the Viking Age and the foundation of Normandy examining the various aspects of Viking society, their expansion across Europe, the establishment and evolution of Normandy, and the cultural and political impact of the Normans. We have offered insights into the dynamic and interconnected nature of medieval European history, highlighting the transformative role of the Normans in shaping the continent's cultural and political landscape. Thanks for joining us for a deeper understanding of the Viking Age and the transformation of the Vikings into the Normans, exploring the cultural, political, and social aspects of this process. Thus, we now have a good grasp of the impact of the Normans on European history, their cultural legacy, and the historiographical perspectives on their role. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys to the past. Stay curious.
Welcome to Medieval Chronicles 1066. Today we explore the Viking raid on Lindisfarne and the dawn of the Viking Age. In the year 793 AD, the peaceful shores of Lindisfarne, an island off the northeast coast of England, were forever scarred by an event that would mark the beginning of the Viking Age. The tranquil life of the monks at Lindisfarne Priory was shattered by a sudden and brutal raid. To understand this raid, we must first look to the Norsemen, or Vikings, from Scandinavia. Originating from what is now Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, the Vikings were known for their seafaring skills and fierce warrior culture. Advanced shipbuilding techniques allowed them to navigate the open seas and rivers with ease, setting out from their homelands in search of wealth, land, and glory. On June 8, 793 AD, a fleet of these formidable longships approached the holy island of Lindisfarne. Known for their speed and agility, Viking longships could carry warriors swiftly across the North Sea and navigate shallow waters to reach inland targets. The monks, dedicated to their religious duties, were unprepared for the storm of violence that was about to descend upon them. Lindisfarne was more than just a monastery. It was founded in 635 AD by Irish monk Saint Aidan and became a center of learning and spirituality. Its library housed precious manuscripts, and its monks were known for producing beautifully illuminated texts like the Lindisfarne Gospels. The monastery served as a hub of education and spiritual guidance for the surrounding community. But all this was brutally interrupted. The Vikings stormed the island, killing many of the monks and capturing others to be sold as slaves. They plundered the monastery, seizing treasures of gold, silver, and religious artifacts. Contemporary accounts, like the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, describe the Vikings as pagans who desecrated sacred sites, which shocked and horrified Christian Europe. Remarkably, Some of the most treasured items, including the Lindisfarne Gospels, survived this violent episode. Produced around 715 to 720 AD, these texts are considered masterpieces of Anglo-Saxon art, blending Christian themes with traditional Celtic and Anglo-Saxon elements. They stand as a testament to the cultural and artistic achievements of the monks. The raid on Lindisfarne sent shockwaves throughout Europe. It marked the beginning of a series of Viking invasions that would span centuries, influencing the political and cultural landscape of medieval Europe. Lindisfarne remains a place of pilgrimage and historical interest. The ruins of the priory, now a tourist site, attract visitors who come to appreciate its historical and spiritual significance. The Vikings established settlements, traded, and integrated into the cultures they encountered. Their legacy is complex, marked by both destruction and cultural exchange. Viking artifacts, including weapons, tools, and jewelry, provide insights into their daily life, craftsmanship, and trading networks. Today, the story of Lindisfarne and the Vikings is preserved through archaeological finds and historical records. Museums such as the British Museum and the National Museum of Denmark house extensive Viking collections, providing a glimpse into a time when the clash of cultures reshaped the world. The raid on Lindisfarne was not an isolated incident. It was followed by numerous Viking incursions across Europe. Notable raids include the sacking of the monastery at Iona in 795 AD, the attacks on the Frankish Empire in the 9th century, and the infamous siege of Paris in 845 AD. These raids were characterized by their ferocity and strategic cunning, often targeting wealthy and poorly defended monastic communities. Beyond raiding, the Vikings established extensive trade networks and settlements. They founded the city of Dublin in 841 AD, and their influence stretched from the British Isles to the Byzantine Empire. The Vikings were not only warriors but also skilled traders, farmers, and artisans. Their ships carried goods such as furs, amber, and slaves across vast distances, facilitating cultural exchanges and economic growth. Archaeological discoveries continue to shed light on the Viking way of life. Excavations of Viking longhouses, burial sites, and hoards have revealed much about their social structure, religious beliefs, and daily activities. For instance, the Osberg ship burial in Norway, discovered in 1904, provided a wealth of artifacts that illustrated the complexity and sophistication of Viking society. Today, Viking heritage is celebrated through reenactments and festivals across Europe and North America. These events bring history to life, allowing people to experience Viking culture firsthand. They highlight the enduring fascination with the Vikings and their impact on world history. Lindisfarne stands as a poignant reminder of a pivotal moment in history, when the shores of a holy island became the stage for the dawn of the Viking Age. A time of fear and change, but also of enduring legacy. The lasting impact of the Viking Age is seen in the cultural exchanges and integration that followed their raids, influencing regions as far-flung as Eastern Europe and even North America. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more stories from the past.